Okay, good afternoon. So what we'll do here is we'll just hang on for a few people to log on. Hopefully you don't need me to admit you. I see people logging in there, so that's fine. So let's get this slideshow started. Okay, so what I'll do, guys, I'll give you a few moments and I'll let a few people check in before we get fully cracking. So today's topic is going to be on modified strongman training and how you apply the principles of training when it comes to unique, diverse implements such as sleds, logs, battle ropes, inertia waves, kettlebells, sandbags. And with the evolution of this industry, a lot of new machines have been added into the training environment. And unfortunately, what happens is when it comes to barbells and dumbbells, we tend to be very focused on tempo and rest intervals and contraction speed and direction and control and biomechanics. And what happens is when unique machines come in, like sleds, like super yokes, like logs, sometimes that gets thrown out the window. And the goal of today's presentation is to give you guys really usable tips and tricks that you can put in your practice straight away. I was chatting to a few clients during the week and I was letting them know I was doing this presentation, and they were like, why is it called strongman training? And strongman training initially sort of evolved from that. You ever remember that the fellow with the moustache and he's on a big wheel or whatever it may be, lifting weights in the circus? It was more feats of strength. And then when strongman training events became more popular, they became more focused on big events, big movements, pulling trucks, dragging anchors and chains and so on. And it's more of a novelty. Now, when you use strongman training, the real benefit of strongman training is it's crossover to athletic performance. So, for example, there's a thing, I don't want to get too bogged down with really complicated text, but what happens is there's a period of when you develop yourself in the gym and how fast you can take that strength, that increase in power and flexibility and coordination and change in direction, and bring it out onto the court, into the cage, into the octagon, into the boxing ring. And sometimes that can take 6 to 12 weeks. Now, when you use strongman training and when you use functional training in this particular manner, the crossover is much faster. It's nearly immediate in some cases. So what I'm going to try and show you today is techniques and tricks that you can use with your training to implement it with your athletes and your clients. This is the thing for PT clients, for people training in groups, outdoors in particular during this time. If you understand the principles of training and you really are familiar with the implements you're using, you can get phenomenal results with your people. So let's get cracking now. I know there's a good majority of people in here now. So the secrets of applying modified strongman training in your business with your athletes and for your PT clients. Now, this is the thing when it comes to training. It doesn't have to be, again, get away from that word strongman. Unfortunately, that's what it's been put under the umbrella. But I like to call it MST. So modified strongman training. And that could be bands, chains, bungees, logs, sleds, super yokes. It could be very advanced training that might frighten some people, or it could be very, gentle. It's more unique training away from barbells and dumbbells. With the evolution of CrossFit, and now I see more stuff like the turf games and these assault courses, they're all trying to get people to have a dynamic amount of strength that you can lift and lift your own body weight and change direction and climb and crawl and do all these movements. And that's ultimately what strongman training is. It's training with implements that are non-conventional, that are awkward to lift and require you to move and drag and push and pull. Now, as I've been a trainer for 25 years, I've been training a lot of groups, rugby teams and wrestlers and MMA guys. Strongman training has been pivotal in the success. And the reason being is when you're training a group of people, it's a very fast turnover. You can condition down from an anaerobic point of view, from an aerobic point of view. And when you understand the secrets that I'm going to share with you today, you can change it straight off the bat. So I've done this with over 50 rugby guys before on a pitch with only 2 sleds. And what I could do is you can change the resistance really fast. I actually went, if you want to give yourself a laugh on a Saturday, go check out YouTube. And I did a video, it must be 12 or 15 years ago now, of me. I designed a sled. And the reason why I designed a sled, I called it a plow. And the problem that I had is a normal prowler will be like a triangle. And the issue is it's very hard to spin it around, particularly you got a lot of messy rugby guys and a lot of grass is caught on it. So what I did was I designed, and Black Box made it for me, was a square one. So you can push it up and turn down and push it back again. This is long before the days of the dog sled that I have a picture of in here for you. But when you have a group of people and you have one sled, you can change how they push it. They can push it low handle or high handle. There could be two people pushing it, one person push it. There could be someone dragging it to help them. There could be someone sitting on it to make it harder. So when you understand the principles of the training, you can really modify this in a group setting, in a one-to-one setting, particularly for clients, PT clients. They get bored. They get bored doing the same thing up and down and left and right. Having something unique in their program allows them to mix it up a little bit more. And again, as a coach and as a trainer, you give them something different, particularly if you're doing semi-private training. A lot of guys now have moved away from one-to-one training and more to semi-private training. And that lends itself phenomenally well to unique training implements such as strongman training. So let's get cracking. So I've actually been teaching this course now live. I taught it all over the world, Hong Kong, Canada, New Zealand. And what it is I teach 2 days, one day on energy systems and then one day on the actual application of strongman training. But you're always limited to the amount of equipment that the actual facility has. So what I'm going to do is I spoke to Adam during the week. We have so many tools here in this gym. So what we're going to do is this is our performance center here in Dublin. In Malahide, right beside the sea. It's a lovely location. And what I will do is we will have live events soon. Hopefully soon we'll get back to live events. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do videos on all the tools that we have here. Now, some are super cheap. Like there's ones that they're called inertia waves. And inertia waves are rubber bands that mimic battling ropes, but they're with elasticated tubes. They are brilliant for fitness, for core strength, for grip. They're very different stimulus to the body than normal battle ropes would be. And battle ropes for me, for a lot of people, they don't do them correctly. So I'm going to show you some very expensive tools you can get and some very quick and cheap and easy tools you can get. And what I'll do is I'll just throw them onto the YouTube channel and you can watch them at your leisure. Some of them might not suit you. Maybe you don't train athletes in that manner. You train older females or males. They may not like that. We just focus on the sled. I did a list of all the sled exercises that I have, and I'm over 72 sled exercises. A sled, in my opinion, is the most diverse tool you can have. But again, I'm going to try and give you guys useful information today that you can implement, but I'm going to support that with some online exercise demonstration of all the tools that you can have. And you can just scan through them and see which ones interest you. Or if you are going to develop your business outside and do more outside training, these are stuff you can throw into the back of your Jeep or your car, get down to the seafront or into a park during the summer, hopefully, and train some of your clients. So what I've done is next Saturday, I'm actually going to launch my own strongman training certification online. So the course that I've been teaching for a long time, I've adapted it. Now, the issue what I have when it comes to strongman training, people, they go straight into it. And in my opinion, you need a really good solid understanding of energy systems, program design, corrective exercise, and coaching. So you need those whole things. Then, in order for the really good coaches out there, when they want to get really good at something, they work with people. They do case studies and Q&A. So what I've done is I've put them all together. So in this course, you're going to get the actual strongman training course with all the modules in it. Then you're going to get a program design course that I have online, my corrective exercise course, which is online as well, the group training course. Then we're going to have a community where we do monthly case studies and programs sent out. And then whenever we get back into live presentation, I'm going to invite everybody here and do an actual in-live presentation on all the stuff and train you guys. So that's coming on the 6th of March next month. So tip number one. Now, this might cause a bit of controversy for people, and sometimes I might confuse some people. So I'll try and go as slow as I can and explain it. So the stimulation is everything. You can go to any gym, get sweaty and leave. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get results. So there's a very specific principle of training. It's called the SAID principle, specific adaptation to impose demands. So what I say to people is you ask the body a clear message, the body will give you a clear response. Now, when it comes to strongman training, a lot of guys are going in for a conditioning point of view. I see guys flipping tires, and these guys are flipping tires, and I wouldn't even let these guys do a normal deadlift. So sometimes people go into this form of training, they think they're going to get a different result, but they're doing it for a conditioning point of view, or they're opening themselves up to injury. So we need to know specifically what the question is we're asking. If you're going to use a sandbag or push a sled or do a battle rope or press a log or whatever it may be, is why? Why are you using this? And is there a better option? Is there a safer option? Is there something that I'm restricted from an equipment point of view or a time scale? So make sure that you know the question that you want to ask for your client, for your athlete, and make sure the risk of injury is low and it's the right tool. Sometimes people just do things because it's different, and that's okay too. Once there's no risk of injury, but once we know the stimulation and then the response of the body will be our adaptation. We get fitter, we get leaner, we get stronger, we get better able to push someone off us in a rugby game. We get better able to jump in basketball. So there has to be some sort of question we're asking the body. And one of the biggest questions I have is fitness. So my question to you guys, what is fitness? Fitness for some people could be a 10K run. It could be a 20K cycle. It could be boxing or jiu-jitsu or, Krav Maga or Taekwondo or yoga or Pilates. It's very specific. And a lot of people, when they focus on fitness, they focus on the heart. The heart is the focus all the time. Oh, I need to get my heart rate to this level. And in my opinion, the heart is secondary to what your fitness levels are. And I know that might be contradictory. That's why I said it's going to challenge your perception here. So what I want you to think about is all that you know about fitness for a moment, just park it. As a friend of mine once said, if you had a glass of water that's already filled, you know everything about fitness, but then you're not open enough to take more information in. So maybe just park it to one side, step back and listen to what I have to say and see if it resonates a little bit with what's going on. So fitness is muscle specific. And what I mean by that is the ability of oxygen to go to the tissue, to deliver oxygen, blood, energy, and get back away to waste products. That system is muscle specific. And what I mean by that is you could be super fit to run, but if you came in here and you did boxing, you'd be breathing through your ears. You wouldn't be able to manage it. If you were super good at wrestling and then you got onto a bike, it doesn't cross over. I know I've trained Olympic and medal athletes in wrestling 9. And when we train these, they have to be fit to wrestle. People that are boxing have to be fit to box. If you're an MMA guy, you need to be fit for MMA, not necessarily on the bike, not necessarily from a triathlete point of view, not necessarily cross country. So we need to condition the muscles specific to your fitness requirements. And fitness, if you look up the textbook, fitness is the ability to do a task without undue fatigue. So we want to be able to reproduce that. So when a client comes to us, is it an athlete? Is it an executive? Is it a fat loss client? Well, why are we using this modality of training? And what muscles are being recruited? And the issue that I have is, if I ask all you guys to think of your top 5 exercises for HIIT training, HIIT training, high intensity interval training. It can be running and burpees and pushing sleds and squats and, box jumps and all these things. And all I hear is quad, 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 quad. And that's going to cause an imbalance to the body. So yes, you could be fit necessarily from a quadricep point of view, but you may be causing imbalance in the body. So that imbalance is not going to allow that person to run 5K or to do boxing or to be on a ski erg or a rower. So we need to make sure that we understand that fitness is muscle specific. So when we're doing our periodization and we're changing the exercises that we pick and the machines that we pick. So for example, here, I know you can't see, I've got a Versa climber, I've got a hand bike, I've got a ski erg, I've got an assault bike, I've got a Concept 2 bike, of a watt bike. We have sandbags, inertia waves, uppercut bag, a medicine ball bag, and then some boxing bags. So when someone comes up for fitness, we change it all the time. Why? Because these people may not necessarily be doing it to improve athleticism. Some of them guys are, the athletes, but other guys are just looking to improve fitness. And when we change the muscles that are involved, and we change the contractions that are involved, the adaptation massively accelerates. And that's what I want to get across to you. When you implement a different form of training and you periodize that, people's fitness massively improves and their muscle specificity improves, their body composition improves, and then the overload is much less. If you're outside running all the time, your knees, your lower back, your ankles will start to scream over time because of that repetitive motion. Next thing is, fitness is movement specific. So the movement that is required in the sport is very specific. So what can happen is, if you're running or jumping or contracting, you're holding, you're pushing, you're pulling, all challenges things. So for example, if you've ever pushed a sled, you'll realize at the end of pushing a sled, your legs are full of lactate, your quads are blown up. And the reason being is, when you push a sled, it's concentric, you're not having a loaded eccentric motion because you're going to the next leg. And when you have a concentric only movement, that movement itself will elicit the muscles to be very efficient at concentric movements. It may not necessarily help you in an eccentric point of view. Like swimming will be concentric all the time. So we need to know the movements that are specific. AKA, you're good at running, you may not be good at jiu-jitsu. It's the same thing. We need to look at the muscles that we've been trained and the movements that those muscles are involved in. Fitness is also contraction specific. And this is something that I learned the hard way. When I started training a lot of the MMA guys back in the day, a very long time, John Kavanagh said to me, "Oh, you need to come to the gym. You need to experience what it's like to do jiu-jitsu." And like, what age was it then? I was maybe 24, 25. I'm like, okay, no problem. I'm in the gym. I'm relatively fit and strong. I went there and they beat the living shit out of me. I said, at one point, I said to John Kavanagh, "How many arms have you got?" I just was choked out all over the place. I remember getting punched so hard, Conor McGregor knocked my contact lens out and I'm picking it up off the ground, dirty hairs, and put it back in my mouth. But I was dead. I was so dead. And one of the reasons why I was so fatigued is the start of the session, we did a lot of gymnastic movements, a lot of wrestling. And when I started to do the wrestling, that was where I was strong. I went from wrestling to we did some sparring and then we did some jiu-jitsu at the end. But when I was doing the isometric work holding, I was gone. So when your movement may be more isometric or maybe eccentric, you can lend yourself to be better at that. And the same turn of the phrase is that you can come in and you can be very fit, but isometrically you're weak. And that's why Carl Dietz, if you want to look, if you're into S&C and you're training a group of people, Carl Dietz has some phenomenal videos online, some great books. His books are called Triphasic Training, where he'll develop each aspect of the contraction, concentric or eccentric, isometric, and concentric, and he tends to wave them through them. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that, but be aware that when you condition an athlete, and particularly for athletes, not so much for executive clients or PT clients, but knowing the contraction specificity of that sport, you can develop that. So if you know someone's going to have a lot of isometric contraction in that sport, like wrestling, like MMA, and to some degree in rugby, you can develop that component. And also isometric training, and I talked about this in a recent video. I have this program called ISO intervals, where we do isometric holds and then we do interval training. And the reason being you can do that is it's very less taxing mechanically on the body. It puts a lot of tension and gets the heart and lungs and vascularity of the tissues improved without the load. So running, bang, 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 that repetitive motion on a bike, that repetitive motion on a row or outside running, you can get the same stimulus to the neuroendocrine system, the cardiovascular system, without that loading and contractions. People feel they need to go all day outside running and doing their biking, they get a cardiovascular fitness. Where I would say if you were to focus on isometric work and integrate that with interval training, you can get a lot of condense your volume of time, enhance your recovery, and get better adaptations from it, obviously mixed with your normal training. Okay, fitness is position specific. I'll put this in as the last one. The reason being is, if you're training an athlete, this is more specific for them. So a forward in relation to a midfielder, in relation to a goalkeeper, different positions in rugby and GAA and different sports, you need to know the position specific. Now, that can be the position not only in the actual sport itself from a team sport, but also the positions that you're placed in a particular sport. A lot of guys will always work in ideal posture, like posture is perfect all the time. And I'm not saying you should train in bad posture or in the gym. Ian King, a phenomenal strength coach, would say you need to be strong even in bad posture. So when you condition athletes, and that's why strongman training is so beneficial, it puts people in a position where they need to be strong and anchor and support themselves, sometimes not in ideal posture. And it's okay sometimes not to be in ideal posture to develop that strength in that area. I'm not saying we should be in that position all the time and training in bad posture, but to be able to move in and out of that position safely and in a controlled manner in a movement like a medicine ball throw or a slam ball throw or a wall ball. Sometimes we might not be in the most ideal position, but we're training ourselves to be strong in that position. We're working on the ligaments, we're working on the tendons to be strong in that position. But if all you've ever done is go up and down and left and right, if you do any rotational movement, your body won't be used to it. So that's why strongman training can really enhance that. And for older people, and in my opinion, anybody, but as clients get older, their ability to walk, get up and down off chairs, carry groceries, get in and out of the car, that's when they do themselves. They damage their back or their knees. So by integrating strongman training into their training system, it gives them better functionality in their normal day-to-day living and keeps the wear and tear down on the body and maximizes the actual adaptation cardiovascularly and hormonally from the training. So tip number one was all about fitness, knowing the stimulation and knowing what we're asking the body to adapt to. And once we know that, we can implement strongman training periodically as a different phase. It could be maybe at the end as a metabolic conditioning session at the end, or a finisher. It could be lifting stations and then a bit of strongman. It could be sled work. And you're going to pick the tools specific to your athlete, specific to their physical enhancement they're looking for. If it's fitness, if it's strength, if it's changing direction, if it's getting off the ground. One thing myself and Adam did, I feel like it was last year, but it wasn't. It was 3 years ago now. We did a camp over in the Algarve, and one of my most favorite exercises to do is a kettlebell toss, where you put a kettlebell between your hands and you throw it up and over your head along the stand, and you see how far you can get it. But that explosion, and athletes need to be able to release something. You know, doing fast explosive movements and slowing it down at the end is not ideal for the joints. We need to be able to let things go. So medicine ball throws, kettlebell swings, we can actually throw it over your head. It's a great tool, and then you sprint towards and get it and go again. So it's a great tool to be able to do that. So knowing what the demand of the athlete has, knowing what your client's goal is, and obviously health and safety and making sure you pick the correct exercise can really spice up training, because we know things are boring. We know sometimes that people are going in just to hit a certain caloric expenditure or to hit a certain heart rate. But when you're in a group of people, particularly strongman training, and there's a load of jokes I could say about this, but we used to meet every Sunday morning religiously for years on end at one of our first gyms. And that's when all the MMA guys used to come every Saturday. All the coaches used to jump in, and we kill ourselves. We would kill ourselves, but in a group environment, it's a great amount of fun. Now, you don't have to go to that extreme, and a lot of the guys will get sick on a regular basis. I'm not saying that's what you're looking to get from your clients, but using that community, using that group training, using that times or distance or meters or tag teams allows people to come together and get a great return from this form of training. Hence why all these events like the turf wars and turf games are getting so popular, because people want a community. They want to drive, they want to train with people. I'm not putting down powerlifters or bodybuilders, but sometimes a lot of people don't have that same drive and focus, and they want more of a community than to be on their own. Okay, so tip number 2, energy systems prescription is key for long-term success. And what I mean by that is you have to change it up. Now, you can't change your energy systems if you don't understand your energy systems. Now, I'm going to cover a good bit here, but there's going to be much more in-depth information and the certification program. But the key thing is know what you're asking the body. If you're asking the body 10 questions, you can't expect the body to answer all those 10 questions. If you're putting a program in place, let's say to push a sled, well, how heavy is the sled? What's the distance you're going to push it for? How fast you want your client to do it for? What are the hand positions? And what is the demand placed in the body from a muscular point of view and from a postural point of view? And once we know that, it's fine. And some of you guys might be out there saying, geez, that's a lot of stuff to be thinking of. But it's exercise prescription. We need to know what we're asking the body. Now, once you do this over time, it becomes second nature. The same way you would put a high back bar position, a barbell position, a low bar position, same way you put your toes in or out, or the stance you have in a deadlift, whatever it may be, you know why you're doing that. So you should know the same applications of why you're doing this form of training. So I'm going to try and make it not simple. I don't think energy system training is simple, but in the classroom, when we had people up here, when we did a live event, we would write on the board and we would work it as a group. And we can do this again, hopefully, when we get you over to the live seminar. So let's talk about it, the nuts and bolts of it. So what we have is, this is how I would write my programs here across the top. So we have the exercise, the sets, the reps, the rest interval, the rate of perceived exertion, or rate of perceived exertion, whatever country you're in. Then we have the work to rest ratio. We have the total work time. And the one there, hopefully you can see behind me, is what's called a total session time. So how long the total session lasts. And every time you write a program, you should know that. So just put a rower in here, for example. A rower wouldn't necessarily be a modified strongman training tool. It's not. But again, I just put it in because it's familiar with people. We're doing 6 sets. We're doing 30 seconds as hard as we can. And we've given a rate of perceived exertion of 8 to 9. So they're going hard for 30 seconds. They're resting for 150 seconds, which our work to rest ratio there is 1 to 5. So it's for every second of work, they've got 5 seconds of rest. The total work time of the whole workout is 180 seconds, and the whole session will last 18 minutes. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be that specific about your programming, but if you're working in a team environment with an SSC coach and sports medicine physician, you need to know the amount of volume that your athletes are doing. For your clients, you may not need to know that. Maybe you do for how to lock it into your PT session. But these are the prescriptions that we need to be really comfortable with. And knowing how long the set lasts, knowing how hard to push on someone will indicate how we actually do that. And we do see here again, the second one I put in, just put in the bike in, but I've changed it. I've gone from 1 to 5 to 1 to 4 work to rest ratio. The sets have gone from 6 to 7. You see there, the actual total work time has gone from 180 to 210. So this is just from the first workout of the week to the second workout of the week. The exercise could be anything. Could be medicine ball throws, log presses, sled pulls, anything. But knowing that subtle change, I'm asking a different question, I'm stimulating the body in a different way. And if you constantly stimulate the body in a different way, the body will keep answering you. We'll keep that overload principle, where the body is constantly adapting to something different. Here on the third session that week, I've gone back to the first session, so it's stimulating again. But you see there, I've gone from a rower to a bike to a rower again. Now, because this is my third session that week, and in the first session, I just put 30 seconds in, I will be really assessing the wattage that person can generate during that time. You see that improve as someone does this. And this stop-start system is phenomenal for the neuroendocrine axis. It really helps people to overcome stress and improve fitness. The long, steady state stuff, the body trying to become more economical. So you'll see the fuel sources. And I'm sure you guys have all heard of EPOC. And sometimes it can be debunked that the excess post-exercise oxygen consumption doesn't necessarily contribute to that much caloric expenditure post-exercise. But what has been shown to be very efficient is the nutrient partitioning. So when you deplete glycogen from the muscles by doing anaerobic activities, your body is more prone to taking those sugars in if you do consume them and rebuilding the glycogen, or it will start to help the body to break down some fats and redistribute the energy into glycogen it's called gluconeogenesis, the formation of glucose from non-glucose sources, and hopefully storing it into our muscle and into our liver. So we're changing the whole metabolism. We're improving our what we call metabolic flexibility. So we're enhancing how people tolerate carbohydrates. We're changing the efficiency of someone's beta oxidation of fat burning skills by doing interval training. And by knowing the demand on the muscle, by knowing that we're rotating it, and knowing how we can assess what I call the personalized intensity indicator, how hard they're working, I can elicit massive hormonal changes. Now, I know you guys might go, Jesus, this is all out there, but this is what it is. This isn't an easy course, and the certification isn't easy at all. It's for advanced trainers. It's for trainers out there that have gone to numerous courses. And for me, I've traveled all over the world, spent thousands, tens of thousands going to coaches and mentors and, internships and trying to learn information, but it just wasn't applicable to my demographic of clients. And when I did get in front of those people, they were dealing with the elite of the elite or very amateur people, and they weren't specific to my athletes. So what I needed to do was, I realized that a solid understanding of energy systems is paramount. Once you understand that, you can apply it to your clients. Then knowing your program design, like at a next level. And I'm not talking about guys out there always pushing strength training, this percentage, that repetitions. That's not real life. And when you're coaching for 25 years, you realize that programs need to be adaptable. They need to be flexible to accommodate you, the situation you're in, the environment your clients have, your athletes have, their competitive cycle, their peaking cycles. You need to understand that. Then injury always comes up. So knowing how to identify and balance your programs to offset and manage injuries is why I put the corrective exercise program in there. And then coaching. So many times I see guys being coached and they're not being coached, they're just being dictated to. You need to be able to read and listen to your clients and listen to your athletes. And those are the guys. And actually, if I was to be honest, I see guys being very successful, not at being experts in their field, but being brilliant coaches. And I think that's a facet of the industry that a lot of people don't focus on, is the interpersonal skills, the communication, the motivation. I could give you a program like this and just send it to you. But if I was there beside you doing it, it's a different world altogether. I'm not saying that I'm a big Nazi, I'm going to be killing you in the training program. But what I'm saying is, I apologize for saying Nazi there. But what I'm saying is, when you're a real angry guy or you can't motivate people, that's not going to get you results. You need to have that interpersonal skills to be able to coach people correctly. Okay, so let's go through. Every energy system has a power and a capacity system. And what that basically means is every energy system, whether it be aerobic or anaerobic, has the amount of power it can go, how fast it can go, and then how long it can stay there. Every system has. So For example, how fast your car can go from 0 to 60 miles an hour. That will be your power of your car. And how long it can stay at 60 will be the capacity, if that makes sense. Now, what happens is they're inversely related. So the higher the power tends to be, it can't last that long. The lower the power, it can last forever. So once you understand that, you can start to say, well, actually, what question am I asking my client by doing this 60-second run or 20-second prowler push? Now, the more advanced somebody is, maybe the more efficient they are from a power point of view, but a client or an executive coming into the gym, you might ask them to go for 10 seconds on a row or 10 seconds on a prowler. They may not have that neurologically efficient to get to that level of power in that time frame. So then you might need to fluff it a little bit, give them 6 to 7 seconds to get going, then push them hard and then bring them down again. I use a case here. I did a seminar a number of years ago in Switzerland, and I was showing these guys that we're going to do a 10 seconds on, 10 seconds of work, and 110 seconds break. That's a 1 to 11 work to rest ratio. And what I did was I did a personalized intensity indicator. So we assessed what wattage I wanted them to get to. So it was on an assault bike. And what I like to do is, there's a lot of research. I'm just going to grab some water here. There's a lot of research when it comes to wattage on watt bikes and cycling. It's a very easy thing to get wattage. But for me, an assault bike and wattage from a cycling to an assault bike, they're not the same things at all. But the general rule of thumb across the industry is around 10 watts per kilo of body weight. So let's say I'm 100 kilos. That's 1,000 watts for me on an assault bike. So what I asked these guys to do was, they only start the timer when they hit their 1,000 watts or whatever their wattage was based on their weight. Maybe it was 80, they're 80 kilos and it was 800 watts. So they got onto this assault bike. One partner was there, one coach was standing beside them, and off they went. Bang, they obviously warmed up. They went up, they got to their 800 watts. They maintained it for 10 seconds. The coach shouted at them or counted when they got there. And then once they brought it back down again, boom, the 110 seconds was on. Then I would track the heart rate. So the heart rate is a great way of assessing recovery. Heart rate, in my opinion, is not useful when it comes to assessing intensity, when it comes to anaerobic exercise. It's phenomenal when it comes to recovery and aerobic exercise and HRV and so on, but it's not a good indicator of intensity when it comes to anaerobic activity, because it's not a fuel source that relies on the heart pumping blood to the tissue. And by doing that, you do a few sets of that, and you'll soon see that your capabilities of maintaining that 800 watts for 10 seconds is compromised. And maybe we need to cut the sets. Maybe we need to drop the sets. But if you don't have that wattage linked to your set, you're going to be asking different questions. So if I wasn't monitoring that, I'm making the client keep to that wattage, set after set after set, their wattage will be going down. And then I'd be asking the body a capacity rather than a power stimulus. So knowing these things, and you put the program together, you will get phenomenal results. The same way we have a sled that we have a track downstairs in the gym, it's 25 meters long. If I said to you, okay, I'm going to put your body weight on the sled and I want 6 lengths done in under 60 seconds. If I wasn't timing that and every preceding set was getting 75, 80, 90 seconds long, what I would be doing there is improving your capacity. That may be okay if it was just a fat loss client. But if it was an athlete, what I might be doing is giving them longer rest, and then gradually week after week or session after session, rather than giving them 1 to 11 work to rest ratio, we started off at 1 to 15, and session by session, I brought it down so they could maintain the same power at shorter rest. So then we can start to manipulate things on a regular basis. And there's next thing here is there's always an optimal stimulus. There's always an optimal stimulus for a client and an energy system and an optimal exercise as well. Motor units. Certain motor units are specific to muscle fibers. We have high threshold motor units that switch on fast twitch muscle fibers. We have low threshold motor units that switch on slow twitch muscle fibers. We need to know that because it links itself to the nervous system and to the movement specific. As I said there, rest. When we're talking to more aerobic muscles, we know what the optimal rest may be for them. However, a lot of people take slow twitch muscle fiber recovery and pair it with fast twitch movements, which is okay for a 4 set, but then after that, we're not going to be going back to look at those power muscle fibers. Movement specific. For example, people doing box jumps that haven't got the stability in the knees or the ankles, that's a plyometric type movement. That to me is a fast twitch dominant movement. And for me, I would only be doing that for a short number of repetitions and a long rest. It doesn't lend itself well to aerobic activity. I understand it may be a part of a CrossFit event and so on, but every muscle fiber has an optimal specific movement you can do. The next thing there is intensity indicator. In my opinion, we should all have intensity indicators when it comes to strongman training. We do it naturally in the weight room when we give people a set amount of weight, or a selectorized machine, or on a leg curl, or whatever it may be, is, but we somehow neglect it when it comes to conditioning or strongman training. Nutritional concerns. I trained yesterday with Adam. It's socially distant in the gym. And we were talking about if you haven't slept well and if you haven't eaten well, how it can impact the later sets in the program. So if you've had poor sleep or you've done intermittent fasting, which is really common now, it's not uncommon for you to have an inability to produce more sets. So it can, your ability of strongman training can be, any training for that matter, can be massively impacted by your nutritional status. And on top of that, I had a consultation with a guy, a cyclist, he's a diabetic. And what he was saying was, when he controls his blood sugar levels, when he has his pre-cycle meal, his blood sugar goes up to a certain level and then it stabilizes as he cycles. However, this time he was a bit delayed because of me actually to do his cycle. So he had his meal, we waited for a consultation with me, we had to reschedule, and then he found his blood sugar was too low when he got on the bike and he was just flat. So optimal blood sugar, optimal muscle glycogen levels, and optimal hepatic or liver glycogen levels have to be optimal to get the best training. Now, it's okay to be fatigued a little bit on the training, but if you want to get optimal training, you need to make sure blood sugar, muscle glycogen, and liver glycogen are optimal levels. You've properly warmed up and you're doing the right form of training. But if you feel sets are going on and they're not, if you want to call them, then you're not being as productive as you could be, it could be a nutritional concern. Training splits. When it comes to functional training or strongman training, a lot of times they're big movements. They're running, jumping, climbing, pushing, dragging, and the lower back, the grip, and the ankles get a lot of work. So it's very important to take into consideration how you're going to split the workout. Is it isometric or more eccentric, or is it more full body movement? Is that too higher frequency when it comes to an overload to the body? Injury profile. In my opinion, there's two major exercises in the strongman training or awkward movement or awkward implements. One is an atlas stone, can be very damaging if it falls on somebody. That's why sandbags are used much more now. So one, and also put you in a very bad position to pick up a stone. Stu McGill actually did some interesting research on that. And then a super yoke. A super yoke is where you nearly hold a squat rack and stand up with it. Not that I'm particularly strong in squats, I'm not. But the very first time you do something like that, you can lift at least 2-3 times your body weight, because you're really only lifting about maybe 6 or 7 inches off the ground. And that's a very small squat to lift something up. So for me, someone should be super stable from a lower back, from a knee, from an ankle point of view before you actually go into that form of training. But again, the injury profile of the athlete, the goal that we're looking for, and then the capabilities of your client in relation to the exercise that you've picked. And that goes to the next point there, imbalance. Try not to do quad. A lot of hamstring exercises. That's one thing I love in particular. A lot of good hamstring exercise when it comes to the normal sled. Also, there's ideal exercise types. So sometimes people take strongman training and they try to, modify it and use kettlebells for farmers walks. You can do that for sure, but realize that there's certain types of exercises that don't lend themselves to be changed. For me, yes, you can walk in a trap bar, but now there's trap bars that are open that allow you to walk much more naturally. So there are open-ended trap bars. They're much better than one of those smaller trap bars and trying to do a farmer's walk or a run with one of those. That's restrictive and can compromise your client, your athlete, and possibly increase injury. There is a huge hormonal response when you get more muscle mass activated. We do know that the amount of lactate released from a workout can impact your human growth hormone. But one of the things, the more muscle mass you activate, the more intense you activate those fast-twitch muscle fibers, the more hormones you're going to get from it. And realizing the volume that you need to do and the periodization, you can get phenomenal results with your clients. I cannot stress that. You take a simple sled, you take it out into a football pitch with a client, you can condition them, will get phenomenal fat loss results and fitness if you understand the variables that we've talked about. And that's what I mean there. The body will adapt very fast to this sort of training if it's combined with a periodization and an understanding of the parameters of the program design. making sure that you change the periodization, that you're not always asking the same question. From an enzymatic point of view, from a recovery and a fitness point of view, the more you change things, it's not the same as weight training. The more you change things slightly, the better the continuous response from the body is going to be, and knowing what your work to rest ratio is. So that's just very simple breakdown there. Now what I'm going to show you is a little chart here. I'm going to flick through it to the very end. And what I'm going to do is you should take a screenshot of this, guys, and have it in your notes. And understanding what each one of these does, understanding what the mitochondria does, understanding the capillarization of it, understanding the motor units, understanding the oxidative stress and where the glycogen is stored. And the big thing I want to get across, you can take a bit of a screenshot of that, guys, and it'll be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this webinar onto the actual website. I'm going to just link it so you don't have to log in. You can just watch it when you want. But the big thing I want to get across here is the fast twitch muscle fibers, they store their energy on site. Slow twitch muscle fibers require the delivery of oxygen and fats to and from. So one is the storage and one is more delivery. And understanding how long they can work for, understanding the power versus the capacity of the system and the possible response from stimulating those fibers. And once we know that, that's when we can make really specific, personalized approaches to our programs. But if you haven't seen this before and you're not familiar with it, if you haven't seen the work to rest ratio and tempo and total work time, hopefully this small webinar will give you insights on how you can start to change it. And one of my pet hates is when I was younger, I studied with everybody, but they all were focusing on this small box of strength training. And initially in my career, I worked for, managed gyms, and we had a lot of group fitness classes, and people shied away from group fitness because, you don't want to do that stuff. Group fitness doesn't have to be necessarily step or hugs and spinning classes. You can take what you know from pure energy system training, make it fun, make it enjoyable, but most importantly, make it successful to get your results from your athletes and your clients, because results speak for themselves. They just do, guys. And people keep coming back to people to get results. Now, do you have to be like a drill sergeant and an army sergeant? No, you don't. But getting people results in a fun way is ideally what we'd all like. But we need to know this. This stuff is just, it needs to be known. So next, what we have is tip number 3. Hopefully, I'm not quite sure where I am on time. I'm good to go. So tip number 3 is no fancy equipment is needed, just professional coaching. So you can take a very simple sled, which costs next to nothing, okay? Or you can adapt what you have in the gym straight away to make it unique. But it's the coaching, it's the understanding of the athlete, it's the knowledge of the client, and it's the programming and coaching of that person that gets results. I can't stress that enough. You do not need super fancy exercise to get massive results. What you do need, you need a relentless resilience and a devotion to excellence with your clients. So, few machines that I particularly love. The best tools, number 1 is the normal sled. This sled, you can get them online, 50, 60 euro. They don't cost a lot. This one here, I think is 100 euro. And I like it because it's low. You can load it up, and then the straps. So again, over 72 exercises myself and Adam went through on this. Loads of opportunities, hamstrings, back, chest. Really love the pull throughs, really love the face pulls. So optimal. One of the things that a lot of guys don't do, and a friend of mine, Clark Flynn, got off me once, it was a tree climbing belt. I know he's Canadian, crazy guy, but this belt was a leather belt with big rings on it, and they used to use it to climb trees, right? However, what you can use a dip belt, you can use a normal weight belt where you can attach the actual strap from the sled to the belt so it takes the upper body out of it. How many times have you got guys that have sore backs or sore shoulders, sore wrists, or sore elbows? You can do a massive amount of conditioning with this. If you've got someone that can't run, if they were to lunge or walk around the football pitch dragging a sled, the physical preparation and the endurance that improves is massive. Bear crawls, face pulls, pull throughs, hip thrusters, glute bridges, all can be used very explosively with a sled. So if you're going to invest in anything, this is the number 1 tool I strongly suggest you all get. The second one there is this is a dog sled. So this is more of like a prowler type movement. A prowler is an option too. This one here, I like it because you can change sides without necessarily spinning it around. You can also attach straps onto it. So this could be used as a combination sled and prowler at the same time. So if you wanted to do this, you're training a group of people, this works ideally well. What I like is we've got a track in the gym. In this gym, in our other facility, we have an underground car park, which is 90 meters long. And it lends itself great to some really good, strong runs. Running with a prowler will not necessarily get you a better runner, but it really improves your fitness and your ability to overcome inertia, to push a player off you if you're playing a rugby game or a soccer game or a basketball game. It allows you that strength and stability functionally wise that you can bring onto the pitch the very next day. Next one here is battle ropes. I love battle ropes. I do like inertia waves or these bands over here. I should get them and bring them over to you. Let me grab them for you. So this is an inertia wave, and what it is you attach one end to a wall, and then you pull on the other end. And what it does is it's very similar to a battle rope, but it's rubber. And what it will do is it will cause the body to pull back. It's a retractor. It's the grip pulling things back, where battle ropes tend to work a lot on the anterior delt, which in my opinion tends to be a muscle group and an area that's overloaded for a lot of people. And grip strength can be compromised for some people too. So very good tool, works very well in the gym, very good for conditioning. It's not something that I'd necessarily do a lot of power movements with, but it's more of a capacity drill. The next one there is the log. The log is a great tool, has been used for a long time. Particularly I like push presses, I like bent over rows with it. People that aren't efficient with barbell movements, I wouldn't necessarily go straight into this. Picking up off the ground, I like to have two tires where I have it resting on two tires, so it's a little bit off the ground all the time, and we can drop it back down again. But it is a real good tool, and it's more of a controlled manner. One of the rules when it comes to strongman training is you should lift first, then carry, then drag. Now, that's not always the way it is. I went over to see strongman and Highland Games athlete and coach Art McDermott many years ago in Chicago, and he wrote a book with Charles Poliquin about applied strongman training, and they have a system of, again, it's lift, it's carry, and it's drag. Now, it doesn't always have to be that way. It depends on these first two things here, lifting or carrying. If it's a super yoke, if it's a log press, it depends on what position you're going to put it in. That's taking into consideration that all your session is going to be strongman based, and that may not be the way it is. Sometimes it could be a group session where it's all strongman. Sometimes it could be some sprint drills and fitness drills and core drills and strongman at the end. One thing I used to do a lot of is body weight strongman training, where we'd use other players as weight, dragging them, lift them, and so on, wrestle, a load of drills you can do from that point of view, which is still awkward training. But take in consideration when it comes to logs that you should be proficient with barbell work before you go near anything like that. Okay, so hopefully I'm nearly there. So just if you want to bear with me, I'm just going to explain the certification. If you want to log off now, that's no problem. You want to come back to that, you can. So it's going to launch on Saturday the 6th. And in it, the actual modules are program design. We're going to go much more advanced into energy systems. There's going to be little tasks and quiz and case studies after each one. And I'm going to give you tons of programs for fat loss people, for the athletes and executives that you can implement into your own practice. Then we're going to talk about periodization, how we cycle it in relation to PT, group training, semi-private training, and then we're going to show you how to transfer it into your athletes. For peaking athletes, this is Kiefer Crosby. He's one of our MMA guys, and he's actually in our underground car park there doing a sled pull. So we're going to go there, the major 4 modules that are going to be broken down for the actual modified strongman training course. On top of that, to make sure you guys get all of it. And the reason why I've put this together is I've been on courses, I've sat in gyms on the floor and Swiss balls and benches trying to learn from people, and they don't support it with enough information. And you get 1 or 2 nuggets, then you leave and you can't apply it. Or you try to apply it, but it's not specific to you. And being a gym owner, being a manager, being a consultant with athletes, you need a bigger picture. You need to have more tools in your toolbox, not just better tools, more tools. So knowing the science of corrective exercise, understanding the program design, and understanding the coaching of 3 separate courses on top of the strongman training that you're going to get. In conjunction with that, we're going to have an online coaches community. So every month we do more case studies. You can fire a question to me on what programs you're doing. I'll go through some more exercises. Again, as I said, 72 on one sled. We'll go through week by week that you build up your library so you can pick and choose the aspects of strongman training you're going to use with your clients and with your athletes. And then on top of that, you also get access to the live course when we do reopen. So the 3 courses are online. And then on top of that, the modified strongman training course, and there's quizzes, and I've made them not super hard, but to make sure you really understand the information, the tasks, to help your learning, not to hinder. And this is something you can do from home. There's no traveling. We've all been on those courses where we spend thousands to travel away, stay in a hotel, be away from family and friends. I know we're probably looking forward to doing that again if we can. But again, this fits into your schedule, it fits into your time frame, and it can definitely 100% be implemented into your practice. And that's my my mission, to give guys and girls quality information that can enhance their business, but they can apply the very next day. So you're going to be asking how much it's going to cost. So the program design course is $275. We've got the corrective exercise course. We've got the coaching course. We've got the community, and then we've got the live course. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it all together for a package today. It's €3,000 in total for all together, but today's offer is going to be $749. So for the first 25 people that sign up, the link will be sent to you after the webinar. If you are interested, for the first few people, it's going to be at that reduction, and it properly launches. The normal price when it launches in the 6th will be $999. So I do hope you found the information helpful today, guys. I do want to give you as much information as I can. Give me some feedback from the webinar. If you have any questions, do let me know. Other than that, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday, whether it be early in the morning or late at night, depending on what country you're in. I hope you got some information from it. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to having you guys on the certification program starting on March 6th. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.